Hello everyone, and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. I'm playing with Jumo this time against Ultramarine and Rizograph, and I will be sparring mostly with Ultramarine, the captain over here, in Anna and Dimitri and Boris. And I just wanted to say, recently I was challenged by a subscriber to get a 2-to-1 KD, and that particular game I fell short, but this one I have just for you. It's better than that, potentially, and it's against mostly, again, the captain Ultramarine. So, I know I failed the Patreon challenge there, but hopefully you'll get a good kick out of this game instead. So I'm moving up with a lot of motorized forces, some Terramusties leading the way, XA-180s and all that jazz, and a Salamandra and a Sokol sort of going ahead into Boris and Anna scouting. The Sokol, you can already see, is fending off this longbow just a little bit. He doesn't want to risk getting in range of those Iglas, even if it is a one-way trip for the Sokol, and that's sort of something I'm really relying on, because you have a couple of forces on the ground here, but much of it with these longbow buys and other things like that is in the air. The left-hand side we will take a look at. That's mostly going to be Rizograph and Jumo sparring on that side. And we intercept some Humvees right away. There are infantry that are unloaded into those towns, but they did take a little bit of a beating. It looks like light riflemen, probably light rifleman 90, yep, unloaded by US player here. And we have lots and lots and lots of fire support, and I love everything about it, even the Sokol getting in some rocket pods there. Nighthawk coming in to get the bombs, and not quite as good as you might expect. We lost just a single Terramustie and a little bit of Iroquois, but we managed to shoot down a lot of the stuff that was going over there. So you can see helicopters taking a beating, Chaparral is exposed here, and my Roms are able to get a couple of missiles off and away at the longbow, enough to take it down and send him into a very, very unhappy fiery doom. So, I am a little bit late on unloading some of these things here, but the Renako Yegri, I didn't want them taking fire across this strait, which you can see sometimes as an answer to this sort of push. And we're into the woods, we're moving up, we're doing everything that we should be doing right there. So let's take a look. Over on this side we have a T-72 BU from Jumo. That's the 175-point Soviet Super Heavy, and that's going to be having a good time using his Sphere ATGMs against M1A1 Abrams. Not the best accuracy on these things. 50-50 chance is of course not reliable, and they don't have a high enough volume of fire to make it so, for the point cost anyway, but it is nice to get that chip damage in against your opponent's tanks. And you can see one shot there, 4 points of damage. On this side, meanwhile, we're fighting off some riflemen, and I'm getting my mechanized forces up and through. There's some charioteers and a Pion that I was just a little bit late in getting up and forward. A little bit of a lapse in micro from me there. And you can see this is really working as intended, because these AH-1S Cobras, they're not Ultramarines, they're Rizographs, which means I'm pulling away 90 points from the Gregory front here, and Jumo is going to use that to his advantage, as long as I can at least stay alive long enough to make it not catastrophic. And we do have a lot of reinforcements coming in here. That's M113A3s, probably carrying some sort of rifleman or other sort of thing. This is a lot of points on the ground. I mean, this is a lot. And I was sitting there going, okay, I mean, we fended off one of the Cobras, but not both. My Raniko are not going to be enough to stop this on their own, and the rest is in Korima with those musties. Yeah, they'll get a couple of good shots, but they're panicked because of all the fighting that's been going on this side, and their accuracy is not going to be up to par. So we're getting a couple shots here. I would have liked to see Ultramarine just move the M113A3s right in. There's no reason to have them stop and shoot. Just bull them right in and through, get stuff there. That's really the priority. Nighthawk coming in again, and this time the ROM is still... We're able to get a shot and potentially a kill. Yep, down he goes. A little bit hard to see as that Nighthawk plummets all the way down to the ground, to a couple of ROMs that were just allowed to shoot a little bit too often. But the riflemen are unloaded, and this is going to be a problem. Or is it? See, the Salamandra is up on this side, and that's not really going to be helpful. I mean, it's just too far away, and the trees make it kind of hard to see. But we have charioteers, and we have Pions, and we have more reinforcements, as my Renako are trying to stay alive, pulling back away from this horde of simple riflemen that would still be able to grind them out reasonably well. Pion is spotting, and we're getting some long-range fire, and the Salamandra is doing his best to fend off more reinforcements coming down this road in Humvees, but, I mean, only limited number of missiles, only so much you can do. In the meantime, much of the M1A1 Abrams have been killed by the T-72 BU here. Nice use of the spheres and some long-range punch, and it looks like Gregory could be going our way as well, as there's VDV and Motostrelki pushing forward up and into the town. However, this grind is just incredible. I mean, look at all these M113A3s, but the charioteers are here. Bit of a mistake on my part as well. I should be targeting the riflemen first, and then the M113A3s, but instead my charioteers are going for those armored kills first. I think it's just targeting priority, and I was trying to bring in reinforcements at the time, so you can see a lot more coming forward, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm not floating too many points. But look at this. 1 rifleman there, 9 riflemen here. Let's watch these charioteers get that next volley on the way, splitting them so they can track targets a little differently. Dead group of riflemen, and I mean, yeah, this is a bunch of charioteers, but the point is, their burst damage against things like that is pretty nice for the points. You don't need a lot of punch if you have, well, high number of punches anyway. So bringing in some resupply, I'm trying to save these Yekuri, but right now they're just being a little bit of a roadblock. And I regretted not having a bomber. As you can see, Rizograf is definitely not regretting this, and he's using that F-15D Eagle to crush some of my men here. A pretty nice forward strike, so oftentimes it's good to, if you see your opponent retreating, sort of try to lead the duck a little bit there and make sure that you cut off the retreating men before they can save them. So, Motostrelki, VDV, Skrezhits, more of that. Spetsnaz grew now into the backline, and Gregory, this is really hard to shake because it means everything here is going to be spotted, and these guys can get their RPG 26s online against anything coming down that ramp. So it's a really tough place to be. In the meantime, Ultramarine does get a Cobra up on this side and a Chaparral, and my Salamandra has been fended off there reasonably well. And the Cobras are very deadly. I mean, these guys, let's look, 55 points. And you get 6 strength, small size, good optics, lots of rocket pods that can actually fire simultaneously. So the FFARs and the Hydras can both fire at the same target at the same time. It's really, really deadly. In the meantime, we have Kart and Yekuri that are getting up here. I'm trying to make sure I hold this town, as it looks like the combined pressure of Ultramarine and Rizograf was kind of getting to me a little bit. We are, resupplying back on this side. The ROMs going back up to almost full missile count, and an ITO 90 as well, just because I did want more long-range punch against the Cobras, and this is really scary. So the Cobra might even be taking a look at Kart and Yekuri in the open ground, but Iroquois are here, that's why they're there, that's why these sorts of troops are just invaluable, and we take out the Cobra right before he's able to really demolish Kart and Yekuri. Even that little bit of frag rounds killed 3 of my men, and I was very much not happy with it. Now we are getting some mortar support from the Nonas here from Jumo, and that was very much appreciated, and my Salamandra has been trying to return the favor over here on this side, spotting, as well as providing some Kokon M's, and just a general sort of don't come over here for any sort of armored targets. Kart and Yekuri almost getting up and into the woods, and my Musties are sparring with Light Rifleman 90, but I have to say, that was a really, really good play. So these guys, they actually landed both their Super Dragons, which is pretty rare. I mean, let's see, 1 time in 4 based off of the raw stats there, not including veterancy, so I guess not too rare, but they killed both my Musties, and I was a sad, sad man. Charioteers trying to exploit the gap, but a little bit late on it. They were sitting around back here trying to fend off all these riflemen for a little bit too long. My Ranico are going to be able to do reasonably well with that, but I'm pulling back the damage group, pulling back both, actually just trying to cycle them out with some fresh infantry that should be very quickly on their way. I'm also looking to cap Boris, because we have a +1 for a while, but we have such a forward position, it felt like a shame not to be making more of it. And of course, Conquest is the name of the game. You can kill and lose anything you want so long as you control the field. And, well, we've had a presence in Anna, we've had a forward position in Boris, we have Gregory. It seemed like a bit of a shame just not to get those points ticking and put even more pressure on my opponent. So Chaparral is going to be shooting in, and unfortunately my ally's helicopter is knocked right out of the sky there. But, now we know where it is. That mortar fire can try to answer my Ranico down to a single man, and just able to get away, potentially, from that engagement. So cycling them back, trying to kill these guys up there, of course, really expensive, high-performance infantry, elite infantry, and they're not something to be, well, expended fighting in against standard riflemen. They'd have to kill a high number of groups of them just to pay themselves off, and that's the trick with line infantry, by the way. Yeah, one group of line infantry will lose against Ranico, but 4 10-point infantry will overcome a 35-point unit, and you'd only lose about half, probably, depends on really the engagement. Chaparral spotted as well on the left side of those woods. T-72 BU moving up from Jumo with smoke support, and now we're engaging Rizograf in Sheraton, while I still keep the pressure on against Ultramarine, but there has been a bit of a lull. I really took a bit of hammering there in Anna, and so I'm trying to get other stuff up here, but 2 CV buys is very expensive, and that means for a little bit anyway, my front line is going to be a bit weak. But I wanted to sort of return some of the assistance that Jumo has been giving me on this side, particularly with anti-air support, and I wanted to make sure that he didn't have to spend on those CVs. So whenever you can help your allies out without too much cost, it's always nice to do so. They will usually return the favor, and it does prompt just really good collaboration. So what you see here right now is a couple of Terker 84s, and I'm getting smoke up and into this section. The reason for this is I saw a couple of Bradleys back here, and I knew that shooting this gap with the Kart and Yekuri might seem safe, but their Bushmaster autocannons, while they are a little bit on the wimpier side of autocannons, can still do a lot of damage to Kart and Yekuri in the open ground. So The smoke is there to block that advance. I actually missed just that little bit until right there, and we're getting into the woods. These guys, I really love Kartanyikri. They're so devastating against infantry. 25 points is expensive, but 15 strength shock training, and they have very, very good weapons as well. And, you know, don't underestimate the M72A4 Law. It's 20 rounds a minute, and 16 AP power is not amazing, but it's no slouch if you can keep pounding those shots in and in and in and in and in. So, ZSU 57-2 is moving up around the side. I want more of a presence on this side of the board. I want to replace my stuff in these towns, as well as get something up maybe even ahead of that to try and project force. We also have a couple of base defense buys a little bit late, but some of my ZSUs are back here, and then my allies helping out with some BTR 152Es. Just sort of trying to be cohesive and measured in our approach. So, Copa is going to be capping Gregory, and that brings us up to a +3 ticking here against Ultramarine and Risograph, and you can see there's another wave of M113A3s coming in. These guys are tough. I mean, 3 frontal armor, they're kind of like the AMX Pries from the French. They're just a pain in the ass to deal with, and Kartanyikri don't have enough AP to handle those guys' frontal armor, so that definitely is a concern. You can see that we have marked the artillery coming out of that section from our opponents, and that's going to be a target for the Raka 91. Not a lot of big contact there. It's not a cluster artillery piece, it's just high explosive. So we'll kill sensitive things, but mostly the rest will be panic and damage. Not necessarily the best pick for the job, but I did what I could. Here's the M2A2 Bradley, and as I said, that Bushmaster's trying to get online there, but a couple of T-72BUs might be able to answer. Looks like they just missed their shots. That's the thing about Red Fort tanks, even the really good ones, the stabilizers really could be better. But Kartanyikri are moving back now. This late in the game, we do have a combined sort of push into Anna, some BUs, and a T-80 from Jumo coming up here to support my beleaguered infantry that have been holding the line and just holding for so flipping long. It really was a very atrocious fight. Also, the mortars are coming up trying to panic and stun the infantry on this side. F-15D Eagle coming in and able to unfortunately get out, but the A-10 Thunderbolt might suffer a little bit of a different fate as he runs into a couple of OSAs, and you might remember this is a flipped perspective on what I showed you guys a good while ago now. Anyway, it was the anti-air, bro, I heard you like AA kind of thing, that Tom Cruise couldn't even dodge an F-14, but this is what it looks like. OSAs, more OSAs, OSA AKM, a couple of ROMs, ITO 90 on this side, just a field of anti-air because our opponents have been using bombers, and that had really been hurting. You can see both my Kartanyikri do go down in these woods here. I'm trying to get Reniko up there, trying to get Iroquois up here as well, and I was a little bit of a mixed opinion on this point. We actually lost a ROM to the Raven, which is kind of disappointing. But we have a +3. We could make it into a +4 by holding Anna. The only thing pushing into this position here between Sheraton and Dimitri is going to do, in my opinion, is cost lives. And there's no reason to. We're at a +3, we're at a +4. The only way our opponents get back into the game right now is if we start throwing it. If we start taking bad engagements on the hope of getting a little bit too greedy in Dimitri and Sheraton, and then they can counter push back in, resecure Anna, grind us out. And there's a lot of expensive ooey-gooey backline bits in here. The OSA AKMs are not cheap. 65 points apiece, and the regular OSAs, 30. It's not expensive, but it does add up. My ROM was taken out. That's another 45 points there. I'm losing some infantry on that side. There's a double stack of T-72BUs, and as wonderful tanks as these are, they are still vulnerable to close-range infantry with high AP launchers, and that's something you have to always be aware of. It did also look like there might be some action in Gregory, as there's a bunch of smoke coming down, it looks like from mortars or even an MLRS. You can see an M1A2 Abrams trying to crest that ridge. If you're going to be doing this, you should really be smoking around here. I mean, you don't really want to present that nice target, and you can see the smoke on this side really didn't do much. It didn't really block out visuals. We still have identification on them from the VDV-90 in the towns. They can see tanks from that far away. It's really not that big of an issue. And this guy is very, very expensive, and he's running blind into a line that's, well, relatively prepared for him. So the Spetsnaz Guru and the VDV-90 side shot, down goes that tank, because the VDV-90 with that Vampire, I mean, 24 AP power to side armor? Yeah, that's a waste of a 180 point tank right there, I'll tell you that. So on this side we have the BMPT arriving, we have some more infantry buys from me, they'll be coming around the mountain when they come, and I've also purchased a triple stack of ATGMs, because I figured if they're going to stand back here with some Abrams, with some other vehicles, let's get up there, let's make them pay for it, let's see if we can get some long-range ATGM shots in, now that it's a little bit more secure against an infantry push. Not impervious, but the BMPT is nice, a couple of CC and some more infantry on my end as well, and we should be relatively healthy in that zone. Mi-17 trying to get his rocket pods online, but I forgot about the Chaparral, and that's going to cost me my Mi-17 just for a single Humvee that I don't even manage to kill. So that's going to be an attack marker, and we're going to be trying to go in with the RAK-91, but unfortunately I just fired, just looking for some HE kills here, trying to get some infantry or anything that might be in this town. Sometimes that town is capped, and sometimes back here the trees are capped. Plus being able to stun the Cobra with some HE artillery kind of made me happy, so I figured sometimes it's about sending a message, and this was one of those times for me where we were just sending a little bit of a message there of, oh hey, I see your Cobra, I'm going to panic your Cobra, I'm just not going to kill your Cobra, but such is life. This looks like an attackums, and that is high precision artillery that's going to come down on the wrong spot because my RAK-91 is already moved out to a different position. Never, ever, ever leave your artillery in the same spot twice. Certainly not when you're playing against a captain with a US deck at his hands. You will see an attackums just right away. It will be brutal. You'll lose your artillery. You won't like it. But M1A2 Abrams is spotted here, and this is what I'm hoping to get with some ATGMs that are unfortunately not quite in position. So the XA-180 is still bringing them online, and if we can get them into these forward woods, a couple of spikes right to the face, and that M1A2 will be having a really, really bad day. In the meantime, the ZSUs are sort of flank defense on the right, and they will get their guns online, but it's an M2A2 Bradley, relatively thick armor for an IFV, 5 frontal, 4 side, 2 back, 2 top. I mean, you're paying 35 points for it, but that's really for the guns more than the armor. And, yeah, it was a weird engagement there, but such is life. There is another push in here from Rizograf, M1A1 Abrams, and at this point it seems to be just that he didn't quite know what to do, which, I mean, I've been there, and sometimes the answer seems like heavy tanks. It's usually not. You need screen, you need cheap infantry leading the way, you need something to take the hits so that your own tanks can return the favor. Double stack of T-72 BUs, but the M1A2 Abrams is a little bit much for them. You can see one of them did get hammered. Retreated by Jumo, nice control there, as the other one's still trying to move up and engage, trying to get a sustained engagement here, but honestly, I'm not sure that's really worth it. The M1A2 hits really flipping hard, 24 AP power against the 23 from the BU, and the difference in frontal armor makes it so that the T-72 BU is just really a little bit out of his league. It's really hard to beat this tank in the open ground. I mean, Leclerc can do it, but this isn't blue on blue, so it is what it is. ITO 90 sneaking up there, and now we finally have the spikes online, but that first M1A2 Abrams is moved back, second one cycled forward, so you can see the higher-end players like Jumo and Ultramarine, sometimes they do things out of a similar book, and I'm trying to provide covering fire as these OSAs get a little bit hog wild, and my spikes are unfortunately going to be firing in against some M13A3s as KTs and Yekri try to fend this off and make sure that we don't lose the forward position. Now, the spike team's down to 5 men, but here's their target, the M1A2, side shot, and down he goes. 2 spikes to that fragile side armor, and that's a 180 point kill right there as we round 420 some points. Here's that plane engagement, double F-15A Eagle, one of them killed, and the second one, look at that cornucopia of anti-air missiles as he falls down to the earth. And I gotta tell you, I'm a little excited. Man, I've been talking more than usual. I think this game, it's been a good day. You have some days that are really just things that make you smile, and this was a game that sort of just made me smile. It's nice to see it again, and nice to do this sort of recording. So, with all of that said, if you guys are still here, odds are you've already subscribed, but really truly, likes, shares, subscribes, all that stupid YouTuber nonsense that I have to ask for anyway, it really does help because this is my hobby, and I upload because it's my hobby, and I love it because it's my hobby, but every bit of support that I can get from you guys makes it that much easier and that much more exciting for me to put these replays up and up and up. So, kills, losses, 35.95 to 14.95, and here is that more than 2-to-1 KD that you wanted, my friend. I hope this makes you happy, and, well, hopefully there'll be a couple more to come. So, units that did well, there's a ROM, took out a Nighthawk and a Cobra. I'm happy with that any day of the week, and twice on Sundays. And a KT actually put in the last point of damage to an AH-64D longbow. You don't see that every day, and when you do, you should probably promote the KT driver. But those Bushmaster 2s are just really flipping deadly. Another ROM took out a Cobra, a Nighthawk, and an Eagle. Really happy with how these guys performed this game. Pion got a couple of nice kills, and that's going to be most of what we got. So, thank you all for hanging around, and we'll see you again real soon.